So a couple months ago when I was talking about finding joy in the creative process, I said I was going to be relaunching all of my books a little bit at a time, relaunching as hardcover editions so that I could go back and really enjoy the launch process that I didn't really get to enjoy with some of the books that I released because my health was not good. I started with my fantasy romance novel, The Assassin's Bride, because it was the first one that I put out where I didn't really get to indulge in the really exciting parts of launching a book, which for me was making all the little extras and interesting new art and having an opportunity to send people signed books and things like that. So I set up a Kickstarter campaign to fund the project. It was a friend's recommendation. Unfortunately, I had reached a point where I couldn't really afford to relaunch my books because setting up a new format of something can be really expensive. It costs, a couple $100s to format something really well and go through the proofing process. I ended up having to get 3 separate proofs for the hardcovers, and print-on-demand hardcovers are really expensive. Unfortunately, I'm not a popular enough author yet to be able to do a print run. I spoke with some printers about doing a print run, and there are very few that are located in the US who are willing to do low quantity print runs for independent authors. Most of the quotes that I got back were around $35 per book just for printing costs, and that was without some of the fancy features that I had hoped to get. With all the shipping situations surrounding the tariffs and everything right now, I didn't really want to go with an overseas printer, but the lowest quantity that an international printer was willing to quote me was still 300 books was the smallest, and that would have been about $5,000 to have printed, and it just was not possible for me at that time. Especially not right on the heels of having some major work done on my car and having to pay $10,000 for a new air conditioning system for the house. So while I had to forego some features just because I had to work with what was available in the US for a low quantity number of books to be printed, I was still able to make some really pretty books. So I'm going to show you how it turned out because I'm really excited. So the paperback has been available for a while, and since my fantasy books are the non-spicy variety, a very popular reader convention in paperbacks for the non-spicy variety is having characters on the cover. And this was the cover that I did for the ebook. It's just, Photoshop and stock photos that I have digitally painted over to make them resemble the characters more closely, which is pretty typical for a lot of indie book covers, but this one has been available for a while. It was still available as part of the Kickstarter just so that people, if they didn't have the budget for a hardcover book, but they wanted to support the project, they could get a paperback for less money. And so I ordered in a whole big box of these, and this is the last one that's going to be shipped out. This is actually for somebody who ordered the book in both formats because she likes to have the hardcovers for collector's items that are just display, and then she gets the paperbacks for reading. So I thought that was kind of neat and also really interesting that there were several people that were interested in buying the book more than once. And then there's the hardcover edition, which has a new cover because in hardcover format, even the non-spicy fantasy tends to have text or typography based covers, and this is what I ended up designing. So I was really happy with how this cover came out. And the whole series is going to match with the similar frame, but different items and stuff in the middle, and also different colors. But then what makes it, additionally special, you can see there's the ribbon bookmark, and there are also sprayed edges, which I, of course, did myself. You can use, I think, 48-hour books, but I priced out one of those and it was going to cost me $60-something for a single book. And also I was selling these for $55 a book with the shipping in the US included. So I couldn't really afford to get $60 per book as the printing cost because I still have to charge people something to be able to afford the rest of the stuff that I wanted to make. But there it is. There's like the ribbon bookmark in there, and the manufacturer that I ended up using does dust jackets but doesn't do the edges or the ribbons. I added those myself. And then the cover underneath is a little more simple and also a little bit lighter color. Like this one's really dark and this one's a little bit lighter. And there's the title page where I'm about to sign on all of these books before I pack them up. And then there's the interior, the chapter spread. The chapter header is a little spool of thread that I had drawn because the heroine has magic relating to sewing. And then this is a sugar maple tree, which I used a reference from a photo of a tree out in my parents' front yard. It was my husband's old tablet. I guess it was a Microsoft Surface tablet. And we don't have that anymore, so I unfortunately only have like the JPEG file. I don't have the layers or anything, which is very sad because this took me a very, very, very long time to redraw and emphasize leaves and add the texture and the shading, and it's a tragedy. But part of the fun was stretch goals. So let me show you some of the things that I got to make as part of the stretch goals because that was just so exciting. The lighting in here is a little bit weird because it's gray and rainy and cloudy, but all of this is like the additional swag that I was able to make as various stretch goals, and I had so much fun doing all the art. But this one actually was, the bookmarks were a collaboration between me and my sister Lissy. She is a webcomic artist. She has a really popular series called Pumpkin Sells Real Estate, and she made time in her schedule to help me color these because I wasn't going to have time to do everything myself. So she traded me colors for a hardcover book. And this is actually double-sided, so on the one side we have the assassin Gil, and then on the other side we have Thea. And one of the more interesting things in the creative process here was finding what historical scissors looked like. And I guess it's an artifact that doesn't turn up super often, even though it's known to be a thing. So these are actually a scissors design that was from like the late 1600s, I want to say. And I figured that would be appropriate for fantasy. But I really liked how this turned out, and we did some different versions of the art, like having them like layered together so that you could see them. And that was like a phone wallpaper that I offered, and I had a lot of digital rewards that went out with the campaign too. So, and then we had a bunch of stickers. Again, this is Thea and Gil, and a huge part of the story is, you know, she catches him in the act of assassinating the king, and he finds out that she is a threadmancer. She can sew illusions. So he makes her promise that she'll make him a disguise so that he can escape if he will help her escape, because, you know, she's been implicated in the murder now. So you have, you know, his real appearance on one half and then the disguise appearance on the other half with like the Ripley effect of the magic working there, and she's got like the little sparkles on her needle. And these are like a weatherproof vinyl that I had made so that people would be able to put them on like water bottles and devices and stuff and have them hold up long term. And then I also did like some generic reader type stickers. This was supposed to be a maple leaf, but I could not find a maple leaf to use as a reference in my yard, and I didn't want to just use one that was out on the internet. So this is actually a sugar gum leaf, but I think it's similar enough to a sugar maple leaf that most people probably won't know. But I suppose you know because I just told you. And this was something that my daughter said. She's very big on puns now, so she helped me with puns for the books. And because this was a fall campaign, and also the book takes place like as fall is moving into winter, I thought it would be nice to have the fall themed stuff. And then we did a color version of the map as a postcard. So this was really fun because I had started to color the map a really long time ago after I drew it, and I never had the opportunity to sit down and finish it, or I guess I never really had a reason to finish it. So I sat down and I finished drawing all the color version of the map, and that was really, really fun. And then on the back, you know, it's greetings from Kintoria, because Kintoria here is where most of the story takes place. They start down here in the capital and then go all the way north into Raynor and then cross over into Angroth. And the map is printed inside the book in a slightly larger black and white version, but you know, the postcards are just kind of a fun little extra to have. And then these are trading cards, which I didn't realize these were something that's actually really popular with a lot of readers. They love having character artwork on like a trading card. So I've got something that is related to like the hardcover design on the back here, and then a drawing I did of Thea on the front, and then one for Gil as well, because I can't neglect my boy. And it was funny because I had drawn Thea's portrait a really long time ago, like back when I first got my iPad, and then I started one for Gil and never finished it, so it sat there for several years. And I feel like my art has changed a little bit for like realistic portraits since I did these, so when I do a campaign for book 2 in the series, it's gonna end up looking totally different. But then the last one we did was a vellum overlay, and this one was a story and a half on its own. But this is an illustration of a scene during the book where she is working on making part of his disguise. And the whole point of the vellum overlays is that you put them inside the book, and then you can see the words through it. So it's like if I open this up and tuck it inside, it's a little bit smaller than the page so that it doesn't get bent when you close the book, but you can see how neat it looks to have the illustration placed inside the book. So I've been putting this like kind of in the middle because that's the scene where it happens, and also having them inside the book, it helps protect it whenever I ship it, because the vellum is really, really delicate. So I've just been putting it there on like page 165 where the scene actually happens. And that's like where people get to find it. They can kind of see there's something tucked in there. But this was one that I did the drawing, and I had the line art available as a digital download so that people could get like a coloring page to do their own. And then my sister did the coloring on this as well so that it would match the bookmarks. And getting them printed was horrible because my printer cannot do vellum. It's really, really slick and slippery, so you have to have a laser printer. I do not have one, and the print shop that I used ended up going out of business right before I got to the part where I was going to get the vellum overlays printed. I ended up going to the makerspace at the local library. The Memphis library system has really nice makerspaces with like 3D printers. They've got like podcasting labs and really nice quality printers that you can use too. But that was an experience in and of itself, and I wrote a blog post about it, and I don't want to talk about it anymore, but it got done. And being able to do all these extras was also really, really fun and enjoyable for me. It's really fun to have the opportunity to make all the artwork that goes along with my characters. But Gil also turned into another project on the side. Let me show you. So if you've watched any videos lately, you've probably seen a sneak preview of the head that I was working on, and I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see this, but I sculpted him in Nomad. And I kind of made a mistake because I never checked what it was going to look like in perspective view. I spent the whole time working in orthographic camera view. So this is what I thought I was going to get, and then as a result of sculpting it in orthographic and not perspective, then when it actually printed, it was a little bit elongated. And so I might need to just take the whole sculpt and kind of squish it a little bit to get that shape back that I had in mind. I'm not sure. I might paint this one anyway just to see how he looks, but you can see in here, well maybe, there we go, Gil. And this was kind of funny because I made him and I printed him, and I somehow totally forgot to include any magnet wells, so I can't put his head cap on because there's nowhere to attach it. So I'm probably just going to like hot glue something to the inside here and call it good enough if I end up like painting this one and liking it okay to keep it. But I do need to do a little bit of repair because while I was getting him off the build plate, I dropped him and got like kind of a nick in the eyebrow right there, which I guess I could work with because, you know, if he's an assassin, he probably has quite a few scars. I mean, I know he has scars, I wrote that into the book, but I hadn't considered putting them onto the doll. And this is a 3D print of the sculpt that I made. This is in the Resi 1 normal beige whatever resin, normal pink I think it's called. And I really like the texture of this because it's so similar to cast resin. And I really wanted to keep going with this project, but unfortunately it's starting to get cool now and I have to do my 3D printing in the garage now instead of in the house. I used to have a room that was like not connected to the rest of the house's ventilation, so all of the fumes from the resin were kind of contained in that room, and that's not the case anymore after we had the HVAC redone. So now I have to print in the garage, and now it is too cold to be able to print the really thick viscous resins like this because it really does better in a room that's like at least 80 degrees, and it has gotten like down below freezing already this year. So if I do make any changes, he won't be getting reprinted anytime soon, but I think I am going to try him on Vaughn's body and see how that looks. He's sculpted to be like around a 65 centimeter doll. I don't know yet if I want to try to sculpt a body for him or if I want to just try to find a cheap one or if I want him to just share with Vaughn. Because my original plan was just having him share Vaughn's body because if they're the same size and it works well and the resin matches well, why have another doll, especially when I'm not going to be photographing this one all the time the way I do with the dolls from Snake's Blood. But then I was thinking about how hard it is to get Vaughn's work in progress chainmail on and off him, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to spend all that time dressing and undressing and redressing the doll just to give myself the convenience of sharing, because I do still need a 65 centimeter body for Kefel, who is my Feeple 65 Rosen. So I don't know, I might need to consider that in the coming year, but that's something to worry about later, not right now. Right now, I need to pack up these last few orders for books and get them into the mail because then I can finally mark this Kickstarter campaign complete. One reader asked me to do like a doodle inside the book and not just sign it, but like do a doodle or whatever. I don't know, so I sketched something in there. I sketched a couple, and wow, I should not be allowed to sketch with pens. But now I'm gonna wrap these up, and these little things, this is a silicone sheet, and when I'm folding the paper, I put this like beneath the layers of paper but on top of the book, because when I pour the wax seal, I don't want it to bleed through the paper and get stuck on the cover because it could damage the cover of the book. So if I put that on there while I'm doing the folding and the wrapping, then it'll protect it, and then I can just slide it out afterwards, and it protects all the books and keeps them so nice. and that's how the book goes to the reader. Since this is a specific one for a specific person, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up in bubble wrap so that it'll be good to go. And I ran out of time. After that, I ended up getting all the boxes packed up and wrapped up and printed postage and took them to the post office, and then it was time to come pick up Evie from school. So you get a me in the car vlog ending, which happens quite a lot on, I have like a second channel where I post just like my rambling thoughts and stuff whenever I'm writing. And it gets a lot of me in the car footage, because this is often the only time of the day where I can like sit down and be still and actually like talk to the camera. But overall, you know, it's like that I marked the campaign as finished today. There were 2 backers that never filled out their backer survey, so I can't send them their books because they never gave me their shipping address, and I have tried DMing them, and I have also tried contacting them through their email tied to their Kickstarter account, and I cannot get a hold of them. So I have put out a notice that, you know, if people didn't fill out their backer survey, did not provide their shipping address, then they have 6 months that I will hold their books for them, and then the books will get sold at an event or something. After that, I think 6 months is a very reasonable amount of time to hold a book for somebody. But this project it was so much fun, and it wasn't nearly as much work as I thought it was going to be. Like, when my friends suggested that I try a Kickstarter campaign, I was really worried about it being like really time intensive, and it really wasn't. And just the whole experience was not at all what I expected. Like, I thought I would be in charge of driving most of the traffic, but most of the people who back stuff on Kickstarter are on Kickstarter already, looking for projects that they're interested in because they are looking for something to support. So while I did have like friends and family and existing readers who enjoy my work show up to back the campaign, I would say probably most of the people that came actually were from Kickstarter itself. And when I started the project, you know, I sat down and I thought, what do I need to be able to keep publishing like this series as hardcovers? What do I need to get the ball rolling for this? What do I need to be able to keep publishing now that I am out of money for my publishing expenses? And I figured, you know, $750 would be enough to create a new like special edition of the book, create all this extra stuff that I wanted to go with it, and give me enough money to get a new book out, which I just did with a fairy tale, The Cinders and the Crown, I released at the beginning of November. And the Kickstarter campaign paid for that. So like $750 was like the bare minimum. And I thought, you know, well, maybe if enough people show up, then I'll be able to reach that, and I'll be able to keep going. And it was just so much beyond what I expected it would be, and in the end it ended up being over 100 people and raised like $2,900. So, and that really helped, you know, ignite this spark of hope. It's like, you know, there are people out there who want to read the things that I am making, and I have a very hard time finding them. I've never been very good at like self-promotion and marketing and stuff. Even with this channel, I'm terrible at promoting my own work, but it was very neat to just see people show up. And I am doing another campaign for the second book that will be launching at the end of January, so that people have time to recover after the holidays, and also so that I can take a little bit of a break before I have to dive in and start working on it. But I have already started some artwork. I have my iPad here, and like when I did the illustrations that I shared before, like, I don't know if it shows very well here, like Gil there, and then I had the one of Thea, which is right here. But my art has evolved a little bit, so I've been working on a portrait for Cass, who is the male main character of the second book, and I'm doing it a little bit differently from how I did for Thea and Gil. I decided I wanted to try like resale so I could do gradient maps, and I'm still trying to figure that out. It's not working real well for me in Procreate, but I think I'll do a better job in Photoshop. But I feel like, I don't know, It's not quite the same. I think I've improved a little bit, but that happens when you actually sit down and draw. So, and I don't need that urgently. I have artwork for the bookmarks done. Well, not done, but like drawn. Like here's line art for the LES side of the bookmark. And I'm gonna have my sister color them again. But yeah, that's how it went, how it's been going. I've had so much fun connecting with people over this project. I've met so many awesome authors who wanted to collaborate while I was working on my campaign, and I have things going on with a lot of them now, like cross promotions, and we're doing like an advent calendar for free books in December, and it's just been really fun, and it's nice to finally feel like I have a clear direction of what I need to do and a foundation for like finding new readers, because since Kickstarter is such a platform on its own, these are people that I never would have reached otherwise, and it helps me raise money to be able to afford advertising. I took a book marketing class at the beginning of October with a pretty successful thriller author, so I don't know how much of it translates to fantasy like what I do. But I have this consistent issue where a lot of the high earning authors that I talk with, they're like, well, you have enough books and your books are good quality, you just can't get them out there, and there's only so much that you can do on social media when it's constantly throttling you. So the only other options are like paid advertising, and you have to have income for that. So that's sort of the goal for the next campaign. I'm setting a lower funding goal for it because I don't have as many expenses to get that one up and running, especially after this one went so well. But that's something to worry about in January, and for now I'm just going to enjoy having a little bit of downtime where it's like I have finished writing my fairy tale, I have finished fulfilling the Kickstarter, I have no other obligations for the rest of November or December, and I think I'm going to take some time to play some video games and make some things for my dolls. So anyway, that was really long and rambly, but it's fun to share what I've been up to, and I guess I will catch you next time. I'm going to try to sew a dress for Kit this week, and I'll be sharing that next weekend. But yeah, that's all for today. See you next time. Bye.